The Ford GT40 didn't sit, it slumped. Asterisk beneath a torn tarp in the farthest corner of a Detroit warehouse. The once revered race car was little more than a ghost. Its fiberglass panels were cracked. Patches of rust stained its undercarriage, like wounds that had never healed. Paint, once vivid with Gulf livery, was chipped and flaking. One of the doors hung awkwardly, like a shoulder dislocated in time. It was a legend, yes, but one that had been long forgotten. Asterisk, the warehouse buzzed with fluorescent light and the hum of machines. Brand new prototypes gleamed beneath spotlights. Executives walked the aisles in polished shoes, clipboards in hand, approving the future of Ford's innovation. But none of them paused by the GT40. It was just another relic of a past era, too far gone to save, too out of place in a room full of sleek electric dreams. Until the CEO spoke. During a Monday morning roundtable, as the team reviewed ongoing projects, the topic came up casually. A manager mentioned the old GT40, still taking up space in the Southwest Bay. Asterisk. Still there? The CEO said, flipping through his digital tablet. Scrap it. It's dead weight. Asterisk. That should have been the end of it. A line item erased. A form signed. Another legend dismantled and recycled into oblivion. Asterisk. But Aria Mendoza heard those words like a gunshot. Asterisk. She was across the room, adjusting the projection on her team's new hybrid drive-train mock-up. But the words, scrap it, echoed like a dare. Asterisk. She turned slowly, her eyes drifting toward the image of the GT40 in her mind. She remembered the first time she saw one age 9, sitting beside her grandfather in a tiny garage in Veracruz, Mexico. He'd shown her a photo of the GT40 that beat Ferrari at Le Mans. This car, he whispered, is proof that impossible things can be done. Asterisk. That image had burned itself into her, every curve, every victory, every drop of sweat that had gone into defying the odds. And now? That same car was about to be thrown away like old office furniture. Asterisk. At the end of the meeting, while others filed out, Aria stayed behind. She approached the CEO, calm but unwavering. Asterisk. I'd like to take the GT40, she said. Asterisk. The CEO looked up, confused. You mean the one we're scrapping? She nodded. What for? Asterisk. To restore it. Asterisk. He laughed genuinely. Do you have any idea how much that would cost? That thing's a paperweight. Asterisk. I'm not asking for a budget, she said. Just time, 1 month, and no interference. Asterisk. He studied her for a moment. Aria was known for her sharp mind and stubbornness, but also for delivering results. She was the kind of engineer you gave impossible problems to. The kind who worked weekends not for recognition, but because the work itself mattered. Asterisk. He leaned back. If you want to waste your free time on a fossil, be my guest. You've got 4 weeks. But don't come asking for help. I won't bail you out. Asterisk. Wouldn't ask you to, she replied, and left the room with her heart pounding. Asterisk. That night, while most of the building dimmed into silence, Aria rolled up her sleeves and walked into the bay alone. Asterisk. Standing before the GT40 Inn. The silence of the empty shop felt like entering a cathedral. She peeled back the tarp with care, as if revealing a patient long overdue for surgery. The smell hit her first: rust, oil, and faint old leather. It was a mess. But it was her mess now. Asterisk. She began with documentation, cataloging every part, every piece that remained. The original engine block? Gone. Interior? Half missing. Suspension? Corroded. But the frame, the frame was intact. Bent, yes, but not broken. Like a spine waiting to be reawakened. Asterisk. For the next 4 weeks, Aria lived 2 lives. By day, she led her engineering team, through the high-stakes pressure of modern vehicle design. They were building the future sleek, silent, software-driven machines. But when the clock struck 6, Aria slipped into something different. Grease-stained jeans, a welder's mask, and a world where everything was tangible, loud, and dangerously analog. Each night, she pulled the GT40 apart inch by inch. Bolts, rusted solid, needed coaxing. She used solvents, heat, even her bare strength when needed. She scraped away grime, removed decades of neglect, and left parts soaking in vinegar baths, while others were carefully sandblasted or restored by hand. The original seats were missing, so she tracked down a retired upholsterer who had once stitched race car interiors for Ford in the 70s. After a single phone call and a long drive out to Flint, she convinced him to help. He crafted replicas using old blueprints and even sourced authentic 1960s seat webbing from a forgotten storage unit. The engine proved to be the biggest challenge. Finding a GT40 spec V8 wasn't just hard, it was damn near impossible. She searched forums, reached out to collectors, and followed rumors. Finally, she made contact with a vintage racer in Belgium who had a spare 289 cubic inch block sitting in storage. It wasn't cheap. She used her own savings, everything she'd set aside for a vacation she never took. The block arrived 2 weeks in, covered in grease and stories. Aria tore it down herself, replacing gaskets, polishing pistons, reinforcing the crankshaft. When she fired it up for the first time, just a test ignition on a rig, it shook the floor and made her laugh like a kid hearing fireworks. Meanwhile, the body was reborn under her torch. Dents were massaged out, cracks were sealed. She didn't repaint it in the traditional baby blue and orange. Instead, she chose midnight blue, like the color of the sky before a storm. A single copper racing stripe ran down the center, a symbol of rebirth, of fire and resilience. Word started spreading. Her team began lingering after hours, furious. They offered to help, cautiously at first, then eagerly. Someone knew a guy who 3D printed classic knobs. Another brought in vintage Ford emblems from his father's collection. Bit by bit, it became more than just Aria's project. It became a mission. But she never let them take over. This was her promise to herself, to her grandfather, and to the legacy of the GT40. 3 weeks in, the car looked like itself again. 4 wheels stood firm beneath it. The interior gleamed. The paint shimmered under work lights, like the surface of a lake at dusk. Only the finishing touches remained. But Aria wasn't racing time, she was racing expectation. No one believed it could be done. No one had asked her to save it. But that was exactly why it mattered. Because greatness doesn't always begin with applause. Sometimes it begins with rust, rejection, and a voice that says, "This isn't worth saving." And someone else who says, "Watch me." The morning of the reveal came quietly. There was no official event, no PR rollout, no invitation to press. Just a quiet meeting on the calendar, titled Prototype Debrief, Bay 5. To the executive team, it was nothing more than a routine update. For Aria, it was the culmination of 4 weeks of defiance, artistry, and obsession. The air in the warehouse felt charged that morning. Aria had barely slept. She'd spent the final night alone with the GT40, applying the last coat of sealant, aligning the polished hood badge, and buffing the copper stripe until it gleamed like fire under fluorescent lights. She adjusted the mirrors with gloved hands and double-checked every line of code in the onboard telemetry she designed herself. Classic on the outside, cutting edge beneath the skin. Bay 5 had been sealed off for days, with dark poly sheeting masking the car. Behind it, under soft lights and a sheet of carbon fiber weave cloth, The reborn GT40 waited. Asterisk when the team filtered in that morning, executives in pressed suits, engineers clutching coffee, designers eager for a break from the routine. No one expected to see history waiting behind the curtain. The CEO arrived last, nodding to colleagues as he approached the center of the room. "All right," he said briskly. "Let's get this started. Who's up first?" Arya stepped forward. "I am," she said. "But first, there's something I'd like to show you." Asterisk, with a single nod, she signaled the lighting tech, who dimmed the overhead fluorescence. Spotlights clicked on, aimed toward the black-draped form. There was a hush, a flicker of curiosity, and then Arya pulled back the cloth. Asterisk, the GT40 emerged like a sculpture in motion. Asterisk, midnight blue, deep, reflective, bold. A single copper stripe ran cleanly down the center, flanked by crisp white numerals on each side panel. Number 6. A nod to the 1969 layman's winner. The wheels were era-correct magnesium, polished to a soft silver glow. The interior, visible through the wide, plexiglass canopy, was a perfect blend of vintage analog dials and digital HUD overlays, elegant, respectful, modern without losing its soul. It looked like it had rolled straight out of a dream. Gasps echoed through the bay. Asterisk, is that? Someone murmured. Asterisk, the CEO stepped forward, brows drawn tight. That's the GT40? Our GT40? Arya nodded once, then pressed a small key fob. The engine responded. Asterisk, the V8 didn't start. It howled. A thunderclap of combustion. And precision roared through the warehouse, shaking the floor and causing half the crowd to instinctively step back. It settled into a rhythmic, guttural idle, deep and primal. The scent of high-octane fuel filled the air. Asterisk, for a moment. No one spoke. Then applause. Slow at first, then thunderous. Engineers whistled. Designers high-fived each other. And even the most skeptical executives stared slack-jawed. The car was stunning. Not just as a restoration, but as a reimagination. It was reverent to the past, but spoke fluently in the language of the future. Asterisk, the CEO walked around the car slowly, tracing its body lines with his eyes. He reached down and touched the fender, and looked back at Arya. Asterisk, you did this in a month? Asterisk, yes, she said. Off the clock. With help from some of the team. Asterisk, you had no budget. Asterisk, I made do. Asterisk, and this engine, it's not stock. Asterisk, no, she said, a hint of pride in her voice. It's better. Balanced internals, carbon intake manifold, electronic fuel management. It has the soul of the original, but it's built to run. Hard. Silence stretched again. Finally, he straightened. I told you to scrap it. Asterisk, you did, she replied evenly. Asterisk, and instead, you turned it into this. Asterisk, she looked around the room, at the faces lit with awe and wonder. We're a company that builds the future. But sometimes we forget that the future comes from something. That legends matter. That legacy matters. You told me not to ask for help, and I didn't. But I did ask this car what it wanted to be, and I listened. The room went still. The CEO took one more lap around the GT40 before turning back to her. Asterisk, this, he said slowly, is beyond impressive. It's visionary. Asterisk, he gestured to the VP of Design, who was already texting someone. Get our media team in here. Now, schedule a shoot. We're putting this in the next auto show. Asterisk, a younger exec, leaned over. We should enter it at Pebble Beach. Asterisk, another added, this could headline the next Heritage Series campaign. Asterisk, in the space of 10 minutes, the car no one cared about became the most talked about machine in the building. Asterisk, the CEO turned to Arya. Asterisk, you've earned yourself a promotion. I want you to lead the new Heritage Innovation Division. Restorations, reimaginations. Give these icons a future." But Arya didn't smile. "I appreciate it," she said quietly, "but I'm not interested." Asterisk, he blinked. "You're turning it down?" Asterisk, "I didn't build this to climb a ladder," she said. "I built it because it deserved to be seen again. Because machines like this teach us something. They tell us where we've been and remind us not to throw away greatness just because it doesn't fit the mold." Asterisk, she paused. "I'd like to keep working, but on my terms. Give me access to the scrapyard. Let me pick what's next." The CEO studied her, then gave a small, knowing smile. "Deal." Asterisk, word of the GT40 spread like wildfire. Photos hit social media before the day was out. Car blogs picked it up. By week's end, it was on the cover of Road and Track, and the video of Arya unveiling the engine had over 3 million views. Collectors reached out. Ferrari issued a congratulatory statement, part admiration, part rivalry. Asterisk, but the real victory was quieter. Asterisk, that car, the one once buried under dust and forgotten now, sat on a turntable under soft lighting in the front atrium of the Ford R&D campus. Employees passed it every morning, heads turning. And beneath it, a small plaque. Asterisk, greater than resurrected by Aria Mendoza, June 2025. From scrap to icon. Asterisk, she kept working. Not for fame. Not for press. But because the scrapyard still whispered to her. She knew there were more stories buried in rust, more greatness hidden behind neglect. She found an old Torino with frame damage. An abandoned Mark II Continental. Even a beat-up 2005 Ford GT with a cracked SUPE, RGHARGER. Asterisk, to everyone else, they were wrecks. To her, they were beginnings. Because when someone says, "Scrap it," Arya hears "Start here."